outside first thing in the morning. I'm going to go ahead and cut some shade cloth for my garden. First thing you got to do is measure. The rolls that I chose to get are 10 foot wide, and then I stretch it out. I want them 12 foot long, so 10 by 12. This way, when I go over to the garden and I install grommets to it, I can use my bungee cord to the piping and stretch it out the way that I want. If I was to use this whole roll going down the whole garden, it'd be hard to put up and it'd be hard to take down. So I like doing each individual bed separate. Also, right now I chose to do it instead of spring, which I was waiting for. We already had a hard frost and freeze spell, and I used my shade cloth from the garden over by my banana plants. Well, we're getting another really hard freeze, worse than the one that just hit us. So I want to cut some shade cloth because I'm going to drape it over some other banana plants so they don't get a double bang and have a better chance of surviving. So with that said, you want to get yourself a tape ruler because you want to go ahead and mark the concrete that you're going to roll it out on. That way, when you're doing it, you could roll it, cut it, roll it, cut it, and you don't have to measure every time. You want a pencil so you can mark the concrete, scissors so you could go ahead and cut a straight line on the shade cloth. If you use a razor knife, you can't cut it on the concrete. You got to put it on the board, and the razors tend to go dead quickly, and it doesn't cut, believe it or not, straighter than a scissor. And you want some knee pads. So I've got tile knee pads with the plastic on the bottom, but I don't want to damage anything on the concrete. So I just have neoprene, and I think the neoprene works great for shade cloth. Also works great on the dance floor. If you get down on your knees, it protects them. So with that said, let me show you what I got to do. Here's a roll of shade cloth. This is the really good commercial greenhouse growers shade cloth. Really thick, really durable, gonna last for years. That roll that I got, that I used some of it already, it was wider, was really heavy, and you're not gonna get that type on Amazon because it would have to come, it would be too expensive to ship because it's a really heavy product. So I go to the manufacturer of the greenhouse over in Apopka, and the link will be down below, and that's where I get it. It's about the best stuff that I found that the greenhouse nurseries are utilizing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to measure, and I put 3 blocks down at the end. And where the line is that I measure, I'm going to put those blocks right on the shade cloth and then roll the shade cloth over this way so I have 12 foot. And now I'm using a concrete slab, and in the slab there's expansion joints. Well, I make one edge of it go straight down the mark or the expansion joint on the concrete so I know it's straight. And then when I pull it, it's straight both ways when I cut it. If it was not by an expansion joint, you could be off a little bit and you will cut it on a slight angle. So always look for an expansion joint or a straight reference point, even if you have to mark it, because you want it square every time or you'll have troubles installing it. So with that said, let me get going. Okay, so I already marked that at 12 foot. Okay, let me go ahead and mark this corner now. Now I'm going to mark the center. Okay, so now I don't need this anymore because I have everything already marked. So I'm going to set this on the side. And I'm going to roll out the shade cloth. Okay, so I like starting with the straight edge first and then pull it the other way. Okay, so pretty much that's nice and square. So now I'm going to cut it right here along that expansion joint. That expansion joint marks my 12-foot mark, so it's real easy to cut. But I learned my lesson. I want to put these on first. Okay, so I put these on, so when you kneel down, the shade cloth is rigid, and it will put marks right in your knees, and it hurts, so it's best to have something protecting. It helps to hold the shade cloth when you cut in so it stretches. Okay, so you can see I cut one whole piece just like that. It's easy to put around you, take it into the garden, roll it out, do what you want to do with it. But I'm going to cut that whole roll up because I'm going to use this for frost protection on some of my banana plants, my smaller ones that got zapped. So with that said, let me go ahead and roll out another one and be back with you. Okay, so to roll it out, you just bring it over there, you try to put it down to the end, you roll it, straighten it all out with your guidelines, and then give it another cut. So with that said, let me get to it, and I'll be back at you. Okay, so another one down. As you can see, I used that line right there. It's an expansion joint. And I used this line. It's an expansion joint. And then with a pencil, I marked. And when I pull it over here, I pull it over about another inch or two. I learned that extra inch or two that you use, the sun shrinks it a little bit and you could pull it, so it does help a little. So an inch or two longer is always good, and then when you use your grommet, you still got the bungee cord that stretches and you're good to go. Okay, so I have all of those cut and rolled. I'm down to my last little piece over here of the roll, and it's about a foot longer, so that's a 13-foot strip. I'm not going to cut it because maybe I need a strip that's a little bit longer. So for right now, I have all those I have all those cut and rolled, which I'm going to use over my banana plants. I have enough to cover up shade cloth in the summer on the whole garden. And I have this little piece here that's a little longer, just in case I need it. And if I need more, it's only about a 40-minute drive to Apopka to pick up some more. Which I have to go there anyways and pick up some ground cover, because I'm going to utilize some ground cover this year in my watermelon bed and also in the garden. But I have to measure before I take that long drive. So since a good freeze is coming up Sunday night, Monday morning, maybe that would be a good time to take a drive, since I'm not going to be wanting to go out in 25-degree weather. So with that said, this is how it's done. If you want to see any of my videos on how I go ahead and put the grommets in those and how I fabricated my shade cloth framing and how I go ahead and make the bungee cord and how I put it up, I'll put links below. I got all those on video already. Plus in the spring, when I'm ready to put grommets in these, I'll do another video. And when we're approaching the hot months after April and May, I'll go ahead and put shade cloth on the garden and do a little DIY video on that as well. So meanwhile, happy growing to you.